wanted to introduce to you today Sandi Vreeburg. She is local to me and works on a couple of clients that I know of, and I've heard amazing things about you. So I'm super excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh, thank you. I love meeting you. This is a really fun way to meet you because we've been connected for a few years, I think. Once I started working with Robin and Warwick Schiller's horses a few years ago, they brought you up. And they're the connection to the group that STT, whatever the professional, we're both a part of. So that's when I first learned your name. And then I would be working with clients and they'd bring you up. And I'm like, this is just someone I need to meet. Because you keep zigzagging across my path.
I know. So same for me. I feel like your name always comes up and then I see you in that group and I was like, oh, and then I think not that long ago, then I realized that you were local. And as we kind of said before, when I started shifting the way I was working with the horses and just in a physical way, softening them and bending them, and I started to kind of branch out and go, there must be something more to this. But what I was scared I was going to do is if I learned too much, it would stop me from just kind of being intuitive about it. Yep. But I knew, because I had asked our chiropractor, Amanda, and a couple other people, like, what is this that I'm doing here? Is that a thing? And she's like, well, yeah, like we really don't even have to adjust your horse's poles anymore. And she's like, well, try that back there. And I'm like, okay, so having a conversation with all of you who can put language to and explain the why behind stiffness in horses' bodies and why it's more than just a physical thing, because that's what I keep trying to explain to people, and me being educated on different ways to say it or reasons why is what I'm so excited about.
Well, I think it makes the most beautiful business that way because you love what you do. And I'm speaking to both of us because I am so thankful and I absolutely love what I do. I say we live life in chapters, and I am in the most beautiful, phenomenal, fulfilling chapter. And I'm very goal oriented. I always have been. And so I used to be a little bit too much so, like, okay, when I get here, then that'll be good. Then from there, I'll go there. I am in it. I mean, I am just in this gorgeous chapter. So I love doing body work on horses. That's what I do. But the learning of why it works, why our touch works, why releasing tension in the fascia helps them mentally is just this. I'm just going deep on that recently. And that started for me mainly after working on an off the track thoroughbred that went from total Zen, closed eyes, and the client saying, I've never seen my horse more relaxed, to that guy standing on his hind legs. And right. And I went, I need to know more about this and stay alive. Because the emotional, and it's real, but anyway, the emotional response can be so huge. So but yeah, how did I come about this? I used to show and compete, and one day I finally woke up to seeing so many horses burn out so quickly and so many issues in the show pen. And I came out and thought, no, I need to, the quote, hang up my spurs and understand what's going on. And then you start delving and delving and delving into this, and it's completely relates to humans, the parasympathetic nervous system and how we hold our tension. I have days I work on horses all day and I come home and say, you're in flight too, Sandi, depending on that day and what you're doing. So, but when you love what you do and it was working anyway, and then people start to give you a little bit of a reason why what you were doing is working, it's just opens up this endless,
right.
There's just so much to know. But I want to say something that you said that's really key too, and that's getting out of our head. I love learning. I am always in the books when I come home. I'm doing during COVID, I'm making myself really stretch. I'm doing an anatomy drawing and laughing out loud because I don't draw. Okay. But I made myself put my pencil to the paper and was literally laughing at myself. So I'm taking a course with someone on equine anatomy drawing. And I'm doing these things that are really good stretching for me. And now I'm watching a human, it took me a little minute, anatomy dissection, just because it's all about the fascia. That was a little bit, okay, Sandi, psych up. The horse was, but when I'm working, Jim Masterson's best quote that I say all the time is, you have to be out of your head to do this work.
Mm-hmm.
You do. And that's why what you do, I think, with humans or with horses works, is because you're in it. It's coming from you intuitively.
Mm-hmm.
And your highest self, as Ariana Huffington says, our intuition is our highest intellect. You know that it works, right? Then you can go home later and study it. But I have to leave out of the pen when I come in to work on a horse. That all has to go away. It just starts to come through you.
Yeah, because I feel like in the beginning, it was all about, well, I want a horse soft. I didn't think about why. I just knew when people ride horses, we were bending them. We were doing all these exercises because we wanted them soft, but it always stopped there for me. It was just like, because that's what we want. We want to be able to put them together. And if they have resistance,
right,
then we can't. And then it went further to me as I started going down this rabbit hole of, okay, but why is there resistance? Why am I having to battle it over and over again? Where does it start? And then realizing there was a whole scientific reason why, that it wasn't just this, your thoughts are making these things. It was like, no, actually, because the nervous systems are such a huge thing. And then thinking, well, no, there's an actual biological response as to when the thought comes into the horse's head, that actually things are released in certain parts of their body. And it was like, oh, but how do we go even further? How do I stop those thoughts, or give them those, the emotional regulation tools that they need to do life? And then it solves the softness problem. I just started diving deeper into why. Well, why do we want them soft? And why do I have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again? If they've learned it, there's a bigger problem. Yeah.
No, it's endless. Yeah. But first of all, every time you do soften, years ago, I loved riding young horses. I got really hooked on showing the futurities and buying fuzzy, funny looking long yearlings. I'd go to Texas because I always say I couldn't afford California real estate prices for horses. And you could look at 50 really good head in Texas, and then I'd bring one home. And I loved the process. I love the process of bringing this gawky thing home and putting time on and doing a lot of groundwork. And then I would work with some really nice trainers, good trainers, to help me do what we needed to do to get that horse in showing in the futurities. But they would always say, one of the best lines I learned was, put brains in your fingertips. And I say that to all my students. I also teach the Masterson courses. I have a beautiful book of business, but I teach our advanced courses and our weekend courses. And I love that saying, put brains in your fingertips. And you soften, when that horse is thinking to do what it is that you're asking, and you soften before that. And we do the exact same thing in bodywork. You get to where the minute I feel them just before they're about to brace, and I adjust to that and soften, and then their brace goes away. And now you have that open mind to receive the information you're trying to put in, And one of my recent addictions, as I say to my clients, has been studying the brain. And Jim Masterson did a clinic with Dr. Stephen Peters, who is a human neuroscientist, but he's a horseman. And so he has been doing brain dissections and wrote a book called Evidence-Based Horsemanship. And it's a pretty simple read. And when I've been writing since I was 10 is when I really started. And so you read some of it, you think, well, oh, I know that. But if everything you go to study for the horse, in my opinion, you step back and open your mind to say, what can I learn from this? He really started fine-tuning for me, as you said, why do you have to teach it over? Or why, when clients will say to me, well, I don't know why, he's been living in this paddock for 20 years. I don't know why he's so spooky. And you read this book and you're like, okay, we really need to try to stand inside what it would be like to be first and foremost in flight. Do you know what I mean? At anything that moves, anything that they smell, etc. And second, as I understand, their second most important motivation for a horse is how he fits in his herd. Mm-hmm. And we change that all the time. We take them and we move them and we don't know what's going on with them. And we need to back up and understand how they view the world. Mm-hmm. And seeing things through the horse's eyes make all of us so much of a better advocate for the horse. And then tension in their body. If you help release tension in the body, we know that it connects to their brain, their parasympathetic, and then releasing and feeling safe and secure in their environment. And then the greatest deal for me is how they can regulate themselves.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's incredible. And I need to live till about 120 to be able to to go after everything that I'm fascinated, with about this. But the work is real. That's all. And I'll say to students and clients as well, if it's for a minuscule moment, if a horse that's been through a lot relaxes and feels safe with what you are asking, what you've done for that being, for his own security and his environment and confidence, and the same with human beings, is momentous. But so I wanted to know, but you work with human beings. I don't know how much of your business is training horses and how much is with helping people, because I have heard wonderful things.
Well, for the first 15 years, it was all horses. And I always say to people, I was one of those trainers that would say, well, I'm just here to help the horse deal with these people. These, and it was almost, I was so judgmental about people, mostly because I was so judgmental about myself. I just didn't recognize that yet. Mm-hmm. And I know from growing up, I didn't really ever learn how to connect with people, but I did know how to connect with animals. Yeah. And so it flowed over into most of my business. And I talk to a lot of trainers because they say, well, how can you say that to that client and have them not get defensive? Because if I said that, there's no way that would go over. And the only thing that I can realize that shifted for me was when I went through a really hard time, and it caused me, my own horses kind of fell apart. And I was like, whoa, and then I heard myself say, the only thing I'm really good at is horse training. And now that is going out the window. So the universe was like, you better look at this right now. So once I started diving deeper into that and realizing, no, I actually learned how to connect with myself, which then caused me to be able to connect with people, which made me realize, oh, I really like people, actually. Oh, wait, hold on. This is a new thing. And so when I started doing the coaching side of it, I realized, well, I'm not really doing the horses any good anyways if the people aren't being healed at some level. And now when I say things to people, it's because the intention behind it, there is no judgment. Like, I really know I'm there to help them. So when I say something to them, they can feel the difference between me saying it because I think they're an idiot, or me saying it because I know this is the path that's going to lead them to where they can actually heal and, fill this stuff in. Right. And I do think that most people will do things for their horse before they'll do them for themselves or their family sometimes. Right. So once they understand this is going to help your horse's quality of life in all the ways, especially if it's gotten to the point where there's behavioral issues happening and they're in danger, then all of a sudden there's this huge motivation. But I think that's also the gift from, God, the universe, whatever resonates with you, where it just gets amped up until it's like a brick wall and you can't ignore it. Right. Right. My horses that I've always gotten in training have always been problem horses. So now, but when I see it, I go, oh, hold on. This just means there's a really big thing happening for them. So I'm very open with my clients now about, if you're coming into training with me, it's like a relationship therapy, like not therapy, but it's both of you. So you're both going to be working on your stuff at the same time, or nothing's going to get done. Oh, that's beautiful. That is huge. That is absolutely beautiful. You're taking me back to years ago when I did show and train. And yes, people, they'd bring their horse in and want that trainer to fix it. Mm-hmm. And then the horse would go back home. And of course, the problems would come back because what was happening with the relationship with the human being and the horse had not been worked on. And, teaching our courses, one of the first things I say on the first day of a course is, so there's just about always tears. And the thing is, people come to the table for their horses. There's so much they want from that horse. Mhm.
And we're all wrapped up in them and we love them, but it's not on the horse's agenda to fulfill our life or repair the relationship with a son or daughter or husband or whatever. And people need to step back and look at that in a very, loving and accepting way. And your story is fantastic because you make me think of Jillian Kreinbring as another person. When I first got certified, I told you I dug into dissection courses because I wanted to see the horse from the inside out. The emphasis on those courses was not, Ivana Ruddock, who teaches them, knows every muscle and every function. But that's not what you come away with those courses. It's the connectivity, the emotional and physical connectivity of that fascia, literally from tongue to tail. And we talk about everything in between. And then I took a course from Jillian Kreinbring, a biomechanics course, because she was highly recommended by a woman who hosted the dissection. And she was training years ago and was succeeding and winning. And one day she found herself flat on her back in a field with a broken back, got bucked off. And she lied there saying, I don't know anything. It was stumbling. Whatever she had been doing had been working, but it wasn't right. And it caused her to go into getting a degree in equine sciences, I think at University of Michigan, and understand from the inside out how they think, how they move. And I'm embarrassed to say, but I say it all the time when I teach. I took that dissection course at 56. I had started writing at 10. It had never occurred to me that they weren't put on this earth for us to ride. My jaw dropped. It did. I thought, okay, there's a little something to take in, isn't there? And I do believe, and I say this to all my clients and students, that we can be excellent advocates to our horses. Absolutely. And they can love their life. And I have fabulous clients and so many healthy horses. I work on very compromised horses as well, but that do like their life and feel good in their body and their eye is soft and they greet you at the gate. But we must always be mindful of that. And how healthy is that for us to get out of our noisy brain of what we want to get done, and instead say, I don't know, let's see today what my horse has to say. And it was Jim Masterson who taught, I told him the other day, one of the most freeing things anyone's ever said to me is, you don't have to be right. You don't have to know. We can't always know what's going on. There is no possible way. They are very complicated beings with over 600 muscles and 200 bones, et cetera, and just phenomenal, beautiful connectivity within. But we can sure stand back and watch the horse and see what the horse has to say. And just what you do in training, that worked. Or why is he doing that? Another Masterson educator said to me once, nothing they do is arbitrary. So that caused me to back up and watch that. And that's the greatest gift we can give to owners. When I walk in, owners sometimes will say, often this will happen to me, well, I adored my horse died, this is my new horse, and he's just a nutball, and he's not Coco or whatever.
Yes.
I wait very calmly and say, but he's not your other horse, and he's not being heard or seen. He's not ever going to be that other horse, right? So, and as you do, I can speak frankly. I'm very honest. I'm very direct, but all that I say comes from my sincere, just from sincerity of knowing what you want and what you came for. And so for me to share that, or what you want me to be able to do with your horse, we need to be honest with each other. You know what I mean? And sort of, as one person said, you got to get the junk out of your trunk on what you want your horse to be to you. Do you know what I mean? And I think, and Warwick says it too. People will go to take a lesson with Warwick and they'll go, my horse won't lope. It doesn't have anything to do with loping. It has so much to do with what that rider is saying, right? Or that anticipation, or the fear that they had from loping a horse that bucked them off every time, or whatever. So it can sound so complicated to people, but if we pair it back to what's happening right now at this moment, and what are you asking of your horse, and how are you sitting, or how is your body language, or what are your thoughts, that changes everything.
Yeah. And it's, people, I think they think it's big and complicated because they think they have to fix it in order for it to be fixed. And so that conversation I had with Cindy was, for me, it was like, okay, I see people doing work with horses where they're helping people heal, like with what she does. But then I have clients whose horses are attacking them. It's our client, you know, so I'm like, how can that horse possibly be here to help her heal? And how do I make that happen? Because I can't sit back and watch a client be attacked by a horse. So my trainer side and my other side were being pulled, and she had said, you don't have to fix it. You have to become aware of what you're bringing to that session. She's like, and what encapsulates it and stops that from happening is by you saying, what is this horse trying to show me that's happening internally for me that I'm just not there yet? So
Right.
she was listing all of these other things. Oh, I'm maybe it's grief, maybe it's all these other things. But the moment I said, what is that horse showing you right now? And it was like rage and anger. And then boom, the horse completely stopped and actually hasn't done it since. But all that it took was her taking that step back and going, what is that horse reflecting back to you right now that you need to see that you're not seeing?
Right.
That it's gotten to this point where it's endangering you to show you what you need to see. And no one had to fix it. It was just like the awareness and the owning it. And then it was cleared. And then we could, you know, work from there. But Cindy was saying, yes, she takes people out on the outside, let them own what it is they're actually bringing in that moment. And then it keeps them safe once they get into the presence of the horses. But once the horses realize that you own what's yours, then they can step in and they help co-regulate your nervous system, because that's what they do for each other within the herd. But they cannot do that if you feel so misaligned and unaware. Then you become a threat and they don't want you anywhere near them. So I thought that was interesting, because I was like, because, you know, there is a piece of them that is that, where they can do that for each other. They can do it for the humans. And I was like, but how do you get from there to there? And that's all it was. It was the awareness and going, oh, this is what I'm bringing. This is my stuff.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And how powerful it is even doing that, you know, when it spills over into relationships. When you get home and you, like you were saying, I'm in flight right now. It's like just being aware before you walk into the house with your family or your coworkers or whatever, going, okay, I know exactly where I'm at right now, and probably anything that I say or see is going to be a reflection of what I'm feeling right now. And then it goes, okay, I can be aware of that. And then your response to everything is so different. But it's just the awareness piece. Like, you don't even have to fix it. Like, you just have to
That's absolutely right. That's right. Although I did raise my kids with a line saying, with awareness comes responsibility. But because once you see it, you're like, okay, I need to see that. And sometimes you want to stomp your feet and scream, because like when someone hits a trigger within you, you're like, okay, I know I've been told, why is this hitting a trigger? What is this that I need to look at? You know, God darn it. But yeah, you do back up and breathe and realize how you're responding to something. And then immediately, you know, I am always thinking horse. So I'm like, my shoulders relax. I rest the hip. I just, you know, you just go, okay, Sandi, I see where you're coming from on this, you know, and we need to back up and be forgiving of ourselves, but genuinely be in the moment to absorb that. Not, oh, well, that's how I am and that's it. No,
right.
You need to back up and soften and relax about it. And that's why, you know, when I became, after I was certified in Masterson and said, now I need to see the horse from the inside out, it was never because I question the effectiveness of this work, because it just blows my mind. I'm over now. A couple of years ago, I went, wow, I've worked on over 1,000 horses, and now I stopped. It was just fun to go through my date book once and go, okay, you know, how many horses have you worked on? But I'm always fascinated. I'm fascinated by the patterns they show when they are just about to release and rub their nose on a wall or the earth or whatever. And just, Jim will say it's self-pacifying. They're feeling things move and let go, and they're not quite sure what to do. And then you get those beautiful exhales and closed eyes. And, you know, it's so addictive. I've never questioned the efficacy of the work and feeling range of motion, which is what it was initially. You know, for Jim, he worked in a big performance horse barn of jumpers in Colorado, and had observed what traits that he saw and release responses he saw being a groom that he would see when people would come do body work. So the beautiful effect for performance horses is, well, it's multifaceted, is that yes, you're releasing tension and now their range of motion is improved. And that is real. And it happens in real time. When I start a certain technique and I'm like, okay, they're pretty tight there. We peel away. I have a saying I say to my students: you never lecture. Thank you so much. That's just a little bit better than it was. I'm going over somewhere else. We always come in through the back door. That's how we're received, is staying inside that brace. And why, just like the horse with your client that was dangerous, are they safe with me? Because the minute I feel a brace, I have adjusted my touch. And it's not always visible. I could back off with my knuckle slightly, but the horse knew I was listening. So that horse knew she wasn't coming in with her stuff. She was saying, wow, he's angry. So she was standing on her own 2 feet. That's how we are the best advocate for them. When I walk in, I have to say, and it starts day one when you take a weekend course with us, you have no agenda. You just walk in and go, how you doing? Not, I need you to be this, or, oh my God, I had a bad day. And I used to say when I would show, and I used to teach some riding lessons, you can never beg for a ride. That's not on their agenda. You need to be self-sufficient, you know what I mean? And soft and quiet and listening. And so when people come to you, and it's a complicated deal, especially when there's danger. But if we peel it back to, I would never want this person to get hurt. Let's go back to them again. I'm always saying the most minuscule, what are we asking? We might need to work with that horse. There are horses I have to work outside the pen from several feet away at first, because they've been through so much. And just envision health. I'll sit in a chair and I'll tell a client, if you're good with that, and the session might be 15 minutes, because that horse starts to relax and come near me, and then they blow. And that's what caused me to want to start digging into the brain. I thought, what is going on? I thought, is it painful? Is this endorphin release or whatever it is that they're feeling? Are they getting like a fist in their brain? And that's when I learned, no, it's absolutely emotional. They are coming out of it like, how the heck did they let themselves let go? They let themselves become vulnerable.
Right. So
for you, when you have, I have a client involved too, but she knew she wasn't going in that paddock. I just said, and that horse, these horses can get a halter on and groomed and tacked up, and they'll be like, oh, they're fine when they're tacked up. Oh, they're fine when we ride, because they are in a different place. But now we're saying, hey, how you doing? That's invasive.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm listening. And some of them take quite a while. That one horse that I had to work from outside his paddock several times, he'd come closer, 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 and really relax. And then he'd go scrape his teeth on the other pipe fence and go after his neighbor. And then pretty soon that minimized. He is working, the person that works with him does a beautiful job. And now I've been able to do complete, deep, beautiful, leave the lead rope over his neck sessions. But it took a year and a half. And that's the other thing. We have to throw away the clock, and so does the client. But, it's interesting to wonder. One client said to me, I wonder how horses view us. And I thought, we're fascinating, because what they don't do, they have a very rudimentary frontal lobe. We think and have deductive logic, and we overthink, as we know. So I said, well, I think some days that's why we're predators, is we're not being true. Oh, I'm afraid, but I shouldn't be. Right. They don't have the I shouldn't be. They're like, I'm out. This is
scary and amazing.
I'm gone. And we tend to go, oh, well, I don't want to do this, but I am, or, oh, I shouldn't be afraid. And sometimes, yay for us, because we know that maybe we're being triggered by something that is no longer there, right? Something in the past. But with horses and studying the brain, it is proven it's cellular. Memory is cellular. It's throughout the entire body. It's in their senses. It's in their smell. So to be safe when you work around horses that have had trauma, you do have to be so secure and soft and relaxed in your body, but you have to note every response, right, that they're having, because you might need to say, and that's enough, and they're not, when I've had them blow, they're not coming at me. I don't think they're even seeing me.
Right.
But yet I'm the one standing nearby. So I have learned to say, we may need to do this outside, or this might be just a couple minutes, and stand way at the end of that lead rope and let that horse let go. And then, of course, the beauty is when that horse can stay in that parasympathetic longer and be more comfortable with it. It's incredible stuff.
Yeah, it is. And then just circling back around to the idea that like we as humans or any animal cannot learn if they're in that sympathetic state. So I don't know how many years I spent just like pushing on horses, holding them, driving them, repeating it over and over. And there feels like you're getting somewhere because you're getting the result you want, but I didn't realize at the time they weren't actually absorbing anything that I was doing. It was like they were just trying to figure out how they were going to survive in this moment with me. And maybe they guessed right and got a release. And having that build up so many times where those experiences, just being unaware, like this is how you train horses. This is how I see my mentors train horses. This is how I get results. Like it's working, like you said about that trainer, it's working, but it never felt like, and now understanding, because they're not learning anything. They learn how to survive and guess the correct answer. That's seems to be
at that moment. I know. First of all, I hate saying this, but I'm so thankful they let me be near them because of the training methods that I bought into. And I worked with some great people. And I always say, I did learn some things that were absolutely not okay. And I bought into them at the time. I didn't ride with anyone that I think thought consciously that what they were doing wasn't okay. They were doing what they had been taught. And I did what I had been taught. And when I did walk out one day and learn this, I'm just like, thank you that you guys are forgiving. Thank you so much. Because I may have won, did real well in some futurities, but how we got there and that horse was doing what we were asking, a lot of it was not okay. That just makes me crazy. But thank you that they're forgiving and that I get to get my hands on them in a very different way now. And it's an interesting thing. I always ask, how will the industry change? I mean, you're a lot younger than I am, but when I was showing, and I didn't really start competing till my probably early 30s, I'd always ridden, and I always rode what nobody else was going to ride in the barn because I didn't have my own horse. I did have a great job in high school, and a man had a beautiful property, and he wanted his horses kept fit, and someone gave him my name, and I got to ride 3 to 4 horses a day every day after school, and that was good. But otherwise, I kind of rode the challenging horses in the barn until my late 20s, and then I came back into buying these young horses. And
what did you show? Reining or rein cow horse? Or
my brother is big in reining, although he's taken several years off. But I did, when I first got back in, it's actually due to one of my brothers. There's 5 kids in my family, and I got married and I wasn't riding, and it was making him crazy because he knew how important it is to me. So he started me, first of all, he's like, hey, Sand, how about, he goes, my friend gets horses off the track. How about, I send them to you one at a time and you do that thing you do. Cause I love putting time on them and making sure they get their leads and grooming them and making sure, they tie and haul and do all those things. He goes, you do that thing you do, and then we'll split the profit. My ex-husband was not horsey, and he goes, well, I don't see the problem in that. Well, first of all, split the profit. You're basically splitting the expense, but loving the experience. And then we'd sell them, and we did that. So I was taking these horses off the track and getting them going in their leads, and as I say, going down the trail and all, and then we'd sell. And then finally I thought, okay, I want to do this on my own. And I started as a kid riding, they called it forward seat. But as an adult, I came back and got into Western. So I got hooked on the Western pleasure futurities, which I know is a swear word because of all the peanut rolling. But we did not peanut roll, and I bought horses that it was post peanut rolling, even though that took years to get out of the pen.
Right.
It was still riding them way too slow. I mean, there's a problem when you're at the AQHA World Show and you hear the judges say lope with forward motion. That is something I've always thought.
Tell you.
What an embarrassment that is. But it took years to get that out because, in fairness to these owners and trainers, they've been buying horses that were bred and conformed a certain way, right? How do you change an industry that quickly? So yes, Western pleasure is what I was hooked on. And if the horse really wasn't set up for that to stay in that. It was a good first year course. Then we'd go on and add trail. I ended up loving trail obstacle because I couldn't think about me just trying to look like I'm not riding, going down the arena. Instead, I had a job. Right. And it was really good for my brain to be like, excuse me, Judge, I got to get over those poles, and just forget about him. So I loved that. And I did a little bit of hunter under saddle and a little bit of horsemanship and showmanship, which I absolutely hated, but I did it. But I'll tell you, nothing ever goes wasted, right? I think everything we do in life adds to our beautiful notebook. It's some of it teaches you what you don't want to do, but that showmanship, I am a master at my lead rope. When I am shifting a horse, I know he's really restricted in the sacrum and I'm trying to take a front leg down and forward. And I can just whisper light that lead rope and send my intention, because showmanship, you're setting your horse up all the time, right?
Right.
So, and students will go, you make it look so easy. And I'm like, that's because I learned the master of setting that horse up. And so I now use that to my ability all the time on shifting their weight to free up, and something, and I'm always trying to set the horse up so he can do what I'm asking to the best of his physical ability. So that little thing came into play. Yeah. But I'm thinking about all that we're discussing on horses and their mental and physical health, and asking, how can the industry change? I mean, I am so thankful for my business, and I'm who knew the world would open up like this, and that I do travel. I have clients in Carmel, right here in Watsonville. I go to Portola Valley and Woodside, and as far up as Marin. So people get it. They get the bodywork concept. I have all different endurance horses and jumpers and 3-day horses and all. And then wonderful backyard horses that people just want their horse to feel the best they can. But so you can take the time with your clients, and I can take my time with my clients, and that's what they want. I keep asking, how could this translate, to the industry that, when I said to you several minutes ago, you're younger than I am, it used to always be 30 days, broken 30 days, 60 days, green broke, but 60 days ready for the show pen. Baloney. I mean, baloney. So how can the industry, do you know what I mean, change? Because competition isn't a bad thing as long as you're taking care of your horse properly, right? Competition isn't a bad thing at all. A lot of the people that I work with do 3-day, and their horses are really healthy in their minds and bodies, and they haul and go. They are very mindful of their horses. They don't do, I'm always having to say, non-repetitious activity. If you got that beautiful ride yesterday in your dressage court, please get them out tomorrow on the polo field or long and low on a trail. And they do. But if the horse industry and showing is going to stay, so many changes need to take place. I just don't, and it's money. And how can people, it's kind of like COVID, how can restaurants stay in business if they can only see a third of the people? Well, or, seat a third of the people. How can the horse industry survive if really you're showing them at 2, or at 3, really? The more I learn about their body and how it's not mature, we need to change what we're asking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it feels so big because it's just been such a thing that's been for so many years, and then the tradition behind it, and the money, the money. So yeah, it feels like a big undertaking. But what I see now is, especially because there are no shows right now,
right?
People having a different shift of thinking because, well, what are you doing every day? Yeah, I have trainers telling me that their horses are going so much better now because, well, there is no date to get to. I'm like, because your agenda has been removed. You're literally just riding the horse to make it better that day. Yeah. Like, so can you see that? Do you wonder why? Does it make you ask yourself why? Because I think that's the beauty in what's happening right now is, people are staying more present, and they're riding their horses for the moment because there isn't that date that they have to get to. There's no pressure. They're not, feeling it for themselves, so they're not dumping it onto their horse. It's just kind of an interesting thing that I've heard a couple people say.
Yep.
And then I get the chance to go, why, do you wonder why? Because
Yeah.
honestly, even the upper level dressage horses, I have, I have a lot of clients that have dressage horses that get so burnt out. And I think the only reason when I work them, it's such a significant difference for them is because, well, my horse is doing like rein cow horse, there is no contact. So it's such a vast contrast to what they normally get. But it's a matter of just saying, well, just let go. Like, why are you showing? Why did you even start doing this? Because all of those upper level movements and all the things that we ask for the horses really are pretty simple if you're not fighting against resistance.
Right.
Like the only reason that stuff is hard is because they're tense or you're tense. I'm like, so why don't you look at why they're tense, and it really just fixes all the problems.
No doubt, no doubt. And I mean, I remember it was huge for me once when I was finally showing enough that I came in the pen, and it was at a futurity up in Murrieta. And so I was in a 3-year-old futurity, and he was a little tense coming in, and there was a woman with a stroller. What is it about strollers and babies sometimes? Just undue horses. And that I softened my seat bones and stayed relaxed and felt him breathe under me. And I thought, I just relaxed my horse in the show pen. I mean, it was notable to me that I didn't go, oh, shoot, you're nervous and I want to win this class. I went, how you doing, guy? In fact, I remember taking my feet out of the stirrups because they'll let you walk around on a futurity horse. You're not being judged yet. I took my feet out of the stirrups and felt him breathe. And it was momentous for me that I had finally reached whatever the judge is in his navy blazer and big sand colored hat, whatever, guy, my horse is a little bit nervous right now. So every time we can respond to them like that, oh my God, it's just huge. And competing again, I think it's fun to do, but we do have to get out of why do we care? Now, God love for people that's their living. Because their owners want them to win. Well, how do we say to the owner, maybe this horse isn't ready? I'm not a trainer, at 3. Maybe really he's going to come together at his 4-year-old year. Let's take him and let him hang out and feel safe, which I rode with a lot of people. That's what we did, is we just rode them around at the facility without asking for them to be performing, or you ride them harder at home. So you come in and the show's a nice place to be. But it's what are our goals? If the world could have the goal be to be the best advocate for my horse that I can be, the rides come, right? But we have to peel away. We have to get rid of what is our goal? Because I don't really think a horse cares if he gets that big purple grand champion ribbon. I just don't think it's on his agenda. But those rides happen. Those beautiful rides happen. When people listen. Another person I'm hooked on learning from, and I ride with Jack Blue, and I'm so thankful. I mean, I learned so much from her. And I tell everybody she's the Jim Masterson of riding and training, is because she, just like you, horses come in that have issues, just movement issues or certain things, and she will back off and peel away at, okay, she'll just look at each movement that they're doing and know, we need to remove that before we can ask that. Well, she's passionate. And then she adds back very healthfully, biomechanically and mentally. They feel safe. Knocking on wood, I never see an issue. When I think of riding and training with other people, the blow-ups we'd see, take them to the wall, make it happen, all those things that were a part of my former life that now you back off and soften and think horse. Why would they do that? Okay, let's peel that back. Well, she's hooked on Dr. Gary Hoishman. And so he's done clinics at our barn, and I've traveled with Jack to take some of his clinics, and I did ride with him last October, which had my little guts in a knot just because I'm just little me. And I may be learning dressage from Jack, but I'm a late comer on that. And oh my, but anyway, here's a gent that is medaled, that was a trainer, that is a vet from Germany, that cries when he talks about his medals because he knows that some of what he asked was not okay.
Right.
And peels it back to how that horse is feeling and how that horse is meant to move, and freeing up that horse's mind and his body and spirit. Man, I'll tell you, the world, when I hear of people like you and what Warwick is constantly doing and watching Jack and my body work and being hired to do this, I think the world just keeps getting better for horses. I really, really do. And, but everybody had to get humbled first.
Right.
And continually, right? But that's what keeps us in the game. And that's, when Jack can peel back my ride and certain things start to sit in. And I say, she's got job security with me because I have so much Western pleasure tissue of making it happen. But that's the art of writing, when we get something lighter and better and feel them connect. And it's the same when I'm in a stall doing body work. And I feel something let go, and it felt really tight at first. And then sometimes, you peel away and you get a little bit of improvement. And other times, oh my God, just everything lets go and it's applesauce, in front of you. You just, oh my God, the gift of being able to have a horse feel safe and release that tension and have that owner see that and change how that owner is viewing their horse is, I have another saying my students know, it's money. It just feeds your soul, right?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's one of the best things is when I didn't know what I was doing at the time until I had a conversation with Cindy, and Sarah actually explained it to me. And that's why I'm so excited about having these conversations with you guys and different people that are doing similar things, but just in a different version. Right. Where when I'd have horses that I wanted to be able to teach them that they could be in a stressful situation, but it didn't actually mean that was the end. Like they could stop and pause and go, okay, wait a minute, let me assess. And what I would do is I would take them to that place. I would bring their energy up into that space where they were like a little bit worried, and then I would stop immediately, and then they could stop their feet, and I would stand there long enough for them to switch over nervous system so that they could process. I felt this way, I didn't die, and I had enough time to, and I felt from doing that, I was trying to rewrite the story they had about what it was. And I think it was Cindy who had said, well, what happens is you allowed them to fully play out that, instead of it being trapped and stuffed down, you let it actually play out in front of you, held space for that. So it was released from the body rather than,
right,
stuffed and trapped. And for people, same, I always tell people, you're supposed to experience every single emotion you experience, anger, frustration, fear, all, but at some point, somewhere along the way, you were told, hey, you're not supposed to feel that way. So there's judgment put on it. Right. But what happens if you just look at whenever, the first time you felt like you were feeling scared and you weren't supposed to? I was like, what if you look at it from now and go, of course I was supposed to be afraid. I was 6 years old and that shouldn't have happened. Right. And even in the moment of releasing that little bit of judgment, you fully play out that emotion or whatever, and then it kind of gets released. And for the horses, being able to really go into that nervous system and feel that emotion in a place that's safe and hold space for them, and then stop and let them go, okay, wait a minute, what just happened? Does that make sense to you as far as like it not being stuffed back down or is that kind of similar with the horses?
Absolutely, 100%. So much of what you say I'm so aligned with. I mean, the emotion thing, I think I said that to my sister the other day. Every emotion that we feel, we're meant to feel, or why would we have it? I mean, right. The universe, our bodies, after the first dissection course, I came home going, these beings are so magnificent. Whatever your God or your energy is, believe me, there's something much greater than we are, because it is miraculous. It's just miraculous how those bodies work. I don't get it. I mean, just, the connectivity and why muscles are striated different ways. Who did that? I mean, it's just incredible, right? Well, the same with emotions. Why, if we have fear, there's a reason. Fear keeps you alive. If you have fear, then you'll run from the tiger. But then we also know as humans, we have memories and attach fear to things that maybe we can release, but it has to be released. It has to be released. And I was thinking about something the other day, and I don't know why, and I'm so happy in my life and all, but occasionally something will come through that does, you feel sad, or it brings back a little slideshow of what you went through. And you're like, wow, I can't believe that just came through. Well, I don't dwell in it. I see it almost like a little movie going by. But I've learned to say, oh, well, I'm feeling that. So let yourself feel that, but not analyze, oh, it must be because of this and it must be because of that. Don't spend a lot of time there. Say, I feel that, but I don't have to feel that anymore because that's not happening anymore.
Right.
And release it. And that's what is fascinating with horses, is seeing them sometimes respond in a way that a situation would have caused them pain or whatever. And then I soften. And you see their eye change, like, oh, I don't have to worry about that anymore. I just remove that. That's how we get to start opening the door for them getting, right? For them to be able to go back into parasympathetic easier and easier and easier. Nobody ate that off the track thoroughbred that went up on his hind limbs. He came back down and everything was still zen. You know what I mean? But he had to go there. And because he was feeling, he was letting himself let go. And then of course this emotional response is every time he'd ever done that in the past, something bad happened. So absolutely, we have to release it, whether it's through movement, through its non-reactivity to it. That's okay. You just felt that, right? Feel that. You had a reason to feel that. And humans can journal and do all kinds of things, I think, to help rewrite the script. Horses have to do it, I think, through feeling it and then having the predator not be there this time. You know, it's missing. However, we can facilitate that. Yay. And then to recreate a good memory. Yeah, all kinds of, I just keep thinking of these things I'm dying to study. I showed you this book, In an Unspoken Voice, which I haven't read yet, but oh my God. I watched a video that had a therapist on the screen, and then a woman was in a field leading a horse, and the horse had been through a lot, and she'd been rehabbing it mentally and physically for quite some time. And there's a big blanket in the field. She calls it a rug. It happens in the UK, I believe. And the horse is just not going to go there. It's just snorting and dancing. And she had done some clicker training with this horse and taught him how to do, I couldn't hear, I guess it's the panther walk. I thought it was the Spanish walk, because Jack has some of her horses doing this gorgeous Spanish walk. But anyway, she asks the horse to approach. And just like I do in bodywork and did without knowing what I was doing when I was riding young horses, is if you feel them, when I would take horses on the trail at first, just before you feel them recede, they don't want to cross a creek yet. You feel that, so you change your ask. So you don't have to get into that, come on, you got to go. You're like, okay, I felt you about to turn. I'm going to turn you in a circle. But when you come back in that circle, now you're a little closer to the water until eventually they'd be like, what is that? and start touching it. So back to this story, this woman is leading the horse to this blanket that looks like a creature crouching. And when she invites it to Spanish walk and or panther walk, whichever it was, and he knows this walk, and he knows that when he does it, he gets a little treat. So she invites him, and at first he doesn't do it at all. He's really too worried. No discipline, no nothing. That's okay. She pauses and waits. Then she invites him again. And he starts to perk up and almost do it, but not quite. She pauses, just lets him breathe through, relax. That's okay. You don't have to do it right now. She asks the third time. And all of a sudden, that guy does this walk that he knows, and he steps up and does this gorgeous walk, and he gets his treat. Right after that, you see him go, so how about that rug? I mean, he just marches towards it because he's built his confidence. He's relaxed. She took the time that it took for him to get a little closer, but don't worry about it. I don't care if it's today, tomorrow, or in a month. But he did something he knew. And that's, to me, what you do with humans, and that I did unknowingly when I used to tutor French, not knowing it was about parasympathetic. I would tutor French privately, and I would tell my students when they came in, so it's just you and me. It's not the classroom. Nobody's watching. Nobody's listening. You don't have to worry about how you sound. This is what I'm doing with you, is to build your confidence so you can walk in that class and eventually start being the one that raises your hand. Well, we might be doing something complex, and I'd watch their brain freeze. You know, let's go into whatever it was, passé composite, whatever. And so I'd say, oh, you know what? I forgot. I've got this exercise I've been meaning to do. I wanted to refresh a certain exercise with you. I wanted to do last week. Whether that was true or not, what I was doing was peeling them back to
Yeah.
what they knew. And
Mm-hmm.
gosh darn it, if the door didn't open, and then
Right.
they could go into the more advanced. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that I didn't know yet we can't learn unless we're in parasympathetic. But I flash on that because that's exactly what you're doing with clients is finding a safe place to, you're, oh, I'm okay there. I know how to do that. Okay, good. Now you know how to do that. How about we just add over here to this,
Right.
right? And you feel safe. You've built up your confidence. You're okay. As long as they are genuinely relaxed jaw, as they're doing that, and then stepping into what now felt like an unknown realm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think humans, I think we're so much closer to being like our horses. It's amazing. It's just we let this get in the way, you know what I mean, of what we're supposed to be doing, what we should do.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I wanted to hear your take on, so I think a lot of trainers in general, most, I think every discipline, beginning, starting horse out, whatever, there's a lot of the bending and the flexing. And I had said when we talked previously, I knew that people wanted their horses soft, and so I would do what I had to do to make that happen. But I didn't understand why. I just thought someone somewhere along the way decided that horses need to put their head here and their butt here, and this is what it needs to look like, and this is how you get there. So the bending around, speaking to that holding space, the vulnerability, I think the mental piece of bending, allowing somebody to bend the horse's head around them in that space, making themselves vulnerable, is one piece of it. That when you get a lot of the wanting to pull the head away and different things, that reaction, people automatically go to sometimes, oh, they're resistant or they're fighting, but I always tell people, okay, have you ever been to a massage therapist or a chiropractor or a body worker, and maybe you walk in and they're like, sit down right now, we're going to work on you. Like, how willing are you going to be able to let go and have your body be manipulated, number one? And then number two, sometimes when I do it, and this would be interesting to hear because I don't know why, sometimes I'll do it and I'll bend them around, and I know that I can keep them there in that moment. Like, we've done enough work before and they want to resist, and I say, just stay a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they'll try to bite, they've tried to kick, and I just keep breathing. I don't get tied into it. I just stay. Right on the other side of that, I'll feel them let go a little bit and I'll release. And then it's just like ridiculous amounts of release. But it feels like it's just that little ending residual fight. Like, no, I'm not going to get vulnerable. Is it, I mean, I don't do it to the point where they're flipping over, and I don't do it in the beginning, but I feel like I get to a point sometimes where I'm like, no, it's time. We're going to stay in this together and get through it. I don't know if that's the right thing or not. So I'm wondering.
Well, I think every horse is different, but how do we then get them past it if we keep stopping at the same riverbank, right? So Jim calls it staying in the neighborhood. And
Okay.
it's exactly what you're discussing. I don't go away. So unless, I mean, everything I say to you, when I teach, I'm like, okay, you guys, I think it's because I did learn French, and French is loaded with irregular verbs. Everything I say to you is loaded with an irregular verb, right? Or all right, okay, well, there's an exception. But we stay in the neighborhood. So that's what you're doing by asking this horse, when I come to do, let's say I'm going to work on their pool, and I know it's going to be really tight. I mean, tension anywhere in the body just resides up between those ears. And often, something you said much earlier, I work on their pool by going to the sacrum because they are connected.
My chiropractor taught me, she's like, come back here and do what you're doing up there.
I go wherever. I say to my students, you go wherever you are received. Mm-hmm. That's where you can begin. You cannot say, oh, but I got to get to their pool.
Right.
Let that go. You are getting to their pool by working back here on their sacrum. Watch them. Why did their head just lower? Or why did they rest a hip when I'm up on the pool? So, but as we start touch and start working, or non-touch sometimes, that horse is going to go through a fidget. Mm-hmm. Starts to soften. And then, as Jim says, they start feeling things let go. Mm-hmm. We know what that feels like in our body. Sometimes it's prickly, sometimes it's pins and needles, sometimes it's a warm rush. Whatever it is, they don't understand it. We know, okay, well, this person's doing acupuncture on me and I'm feeling this, and you know, and oh my God, are we the same? I mean, he'll work on my left arm and I'm like, I feel it in my right toe. That's pretty freaking incredible. But anyway, we can put a reason for that. I feel that because I'm in an acupuncture appointment. So they are going to go, but I don't like this. You're staying in the game, but I know that you're softening because it's working. You're saying, let's go a little longer. But just the way you said that was an invitation. You're asking. That's what we're always doing. I'm asking to be invited. I'm asking to come in the back door. Well, that's okay. If not this, how about this? I'm doing head down. I'm working on his pole muscles. I'm moving with him, softening the minute I feel something tight, but I'm not disappearing. That's what ends up becoming effective and releasing that tension is we stay in the game. And Jim will say, stay in the neighborhood. Maybe the horse doesn't want me right up on the muscles of right above his atlas. So I go back 2 inches. I'm still helping release tension there by helping him release tension, first of all, overall, but staying in the game. And pretty soon they find out, oh, what, I could do that. And then, yes, you've got the wobbly, you know, with students will go, how do you know when you're done? Well, when they're wobbling, you're done. But, you know, but you stayed. So, but you'd have to build on that. Your first session with that horse, perhaps, depending on how much trauma maybe a horse has been through. For me, if it's a horse that's just been in training, that can be traumatic too, but they're tight in their muscles, but they're really, let's say they've had good experiences with humans and good experiences in their lives. I might be able to go a little deeper. I can just tell with certain horses, I'm like, okay, he's a little worried. He's fidgeting. I've got to stay through this fidget. If I disappear before the fidget, it's not going to let go. Then he's going to be like, yeah, okay, I knew that wasn't good. And now I'm anthropomorphizing. I'm putting human statements into that horse. But let's just say that it's true. If I get him part way and then he tenses and I walk away, well, we just got nothing done. If I go lighter, go a few inches away, but stay in that technique somehow, and that horse says, let's go. And believe me, then I step away. We've just taken that horse farther, mentally and physically releasing that tension. Right. So yeah, what you're doing is right. You have to read the horse. Some of them, it's bizarrely light that you can do, depending on whatever they're holding on to. And then, yeah, you have to step far away. Because as I say, those are the ones that's been right after the owner says, I've never seen them more relaxed, that they end up boop on their hind legs, and sometimes punching, which makes me cry because you know that they literally are coming out fighting for their life.
Right.
But yeah, how would you take them farther? And just like a human in therapy, you need to stay safe. I need you to feel safe, but you do need to step out on that diving board a little bit, if eventually you want to dive back into the water.
Right.
So it's a constant give and take. And I do think, I know, the awareness that this body work has brought to my life, softening, relaxing. I mean, that when I was trying to figure out what modality I wanted, and I read an article about Jim Masterson and the Masterson method, and went out and did the bladder meridian on my horse. And she came around and licked my face and my arms and my chin. And just like I was back at a hind limb doing a ting point on one of her back feet, which are termination points in the meridian. And she came around and licked me, and I went, yeah, okay, whatever this is. Well, it changed me from then on. I used to walk into my paddock and be like, oh, it's a nostril pinching day. I'd be like, well, I pay your rent. I mean, how do I sound? I pay your rent, and you got 23 hours free, girl. So, let's go. After doing this work, I'd be like, oh, okay. TNJ point. I'd do a little something. I would disappear. I'd clean my stall, just completely let go of wanting that great ride. And then I'd come up to my horse and she'd be like, how you doing? How are you? Because I took the time to listen, right? And every time we come in that paddock, with that halter, I realize now how, they may be somewhere else mentally, emotionally that day. And we just come in and march. And you just change your life by slowing that down and stopping and listening and waiting for them to come to you. Or, more people take these courses that say, I've always loved writing, and now writing doesn't mean as much to me as the time It's just the time I spend with my horse. And I'm the same. I love riding, but I love the groundwork, or I love taking a horse and hand walking on a trail and just observing. Yeah. Anyway, I hope that answered your question in my very verbose way.
No, yeah. And how can you, is there an actual physiological, biological reason why loosening that stuff causes the horse to get relaxed? Like, I mean, obviously there is, but what does that look like for someone who's just like, I don't know, I bend my horse's head around and he looks pretty relaxed after they hold it there.
Well, if you bent your horse's head around in a soft, relaxed way, asking for them to do what their body can naturally do, just like you or I, if we relax into doing yoga or body work, or versus a chiro or someone who goes, okay, boom, you know, this is gonna hurt. But anytime you ask for movement, and just doing this, watching this human anatomy course, having him just completely reinforce all that Ivana says in the horse dissection. You know, it used to be just viewed that everything is viewed for the central nervous system is the highest intelligence and sending messages to the brain. No, absolutely not. The fascia and layers of fascia, there's superficial fascia, and now this gent talks about perifascia that wraps around the fascia for the next layer, the deep layer. Everything is meant to slide. Every time everything slides, it's communicating. It's communicating, hey, I'm moving, you should go now. Okay, everybody needs to slide and be healthy. There's a reason for every single muscle, every single everything, postural, gymnastic. By your asking a horse to relax and bend in a relaxed way, he's communicating with his body. It feels good. It feels safe. It's completely physiological, psychological, cardiovascular, immune support, everything. If you feel safe in your body, you feel good in the world. You know, you feel good. If you are tense and somebody drives by you and they honk at someone else, you jerk because you think it's at you and you don't know what's going on. I'm always told with clients, my horse always spooks less after you've done body work. Well, if you feel better in their body, your soft bend and then relaxing into it. And I do take it farther, as I said to you earlier, after studying dissection so much. And I think it was actually Dr. Huishman who had said it once, thinking about how the muscles run and the hyoid attachments run. If you put a bend through those intercostals, you are stimulating the hyoid. Literally, they are attached, literally tongue to tail, and you're stimulating salivation by asking for that bend. So it's not just emotional, I'm softening, it's physical. Do that, right? Well, every time that jaw is relaxed and they salivate, they're going into parasympathetic. So it's very definitely, you know, it's interesting. It's an interesting world, all of this fascia work. And Ivana in the dissection courses knows every muscle, and she'll say, she used to always be all about all the muscles. I know every muscle, I know what they do. The third course I took, she actually said, and it was so beautiful, I don't even care about the muscle because it's all about all that goes on in between that and releasing tension through those layers. And our soft hands, or lifting our hand, bringing attention. When I touch an area, I am bringing that horse's attention to that area. Now, I tell students all the time, we are bringing their attention to their tension.
Right.
Well, now we need to go softer so they feel okay about releasing it. That's what you're doing with your soft bend. If you were asking a horse to bend and they were, you know, moving their head at a funny angle or bracing, I don't think you'd have your student continue the bend.
Right.
Right? You stop right the minute I see, can they come around with a flat forehead and truly bend through their thoracic junction and their shoulders and withers junction. If not, I stop where it is that they stop and soften that area, lengthen them out. I would say you need to give them a little more real estate. If they can't come around properly, then let's find out why. Let's go to that area. Let's soften that area so that they now have a little more to work with and they can come around. And that's when you get those beautiful sneezes and blows and licks and chews, because now you've just freed them up to do something that their body was meant to do.
Right.
It just can't always do it right away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. The touch, bringing the awareness, because I may have made this up in my own head. It kind of feels like sometimes they will, a part of their body that feels really tense, they'll kind of disassociate from.
Oh yeah, not
Okay.
talking. Yep.
Yeah, and then once you touch it, the awareness is there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because and then sometimes there's emotions attached to that tension. Is that true? I had explained it like, have you ever been getting body work and then all of a sudden you want to just sob and you have no idea why? Like, because
no, I mean, fascial health, everything sliding is emotional and mental health. It's emotional and mental freedom. But that tension, there's something that was trapped in there.
Right. There's a reason.
There's a reason it's there. And you know, horses are so flipping true. You know, they're so in their body and so real that yes, you know, they have emotions. You know, you've seen horses be depressed, you know. So as you release, we'll say I'm crying and I don't know why. Well, some horses halfway through a session, this has happened with me with a really wonderful session with a horse that had been in a rough situation. And the client told me, it's just a fabulous client up in the Woodacre area. And she said, okay, I think he's kind of claustrophobic. And she knows the Masterson method enough to know she was trying the bladder meridian on him, which, you know, is it's a very, very light technique. Jim has terms, air gap. I added hair gap. I might be just touching the hair. I might be 2 inches off or 6 inches off. But I'll tell you something, as light as it is, and we do the bladder meridian because it intersects all the other meridians, I have also found it to be sometimes too invasive. We teach it as one of our lightest techniques. However, because the horse cannot brace against it, horses that have been through so much are like, don't even think about it, sister. I could go to do some movement techniques and they're okay. And I have to do, as I say, you can only do the technique to the ability the horse can do that technique, whether that's emotional or physical. So she was right. I went to do a little bladder meridian and he wasn't having it. So I said, you know, let's go down to the arena and we'll just start. And I started with a little bit of whatever, one of our front leg techniques. And then he'd have to walk away. I could drape the lead over his neck and I'd go over to the fence rail and he would walk away. And I would walk away. And within minutes, that guy figured out this is good and I'm safe. And he'd come back for more. And I had told her this might be 15 minutes. I don't know. Normally my first sessions are an hour and a half. I always tell the client, though, the horse dictates the length of the session, but I set aside an hour and a half. And I thought this could be really brief. That guy went, I think, about an hour and 15. But when I started getting into some deeper stuff, and sacral stuff, and he was a big jumper and very beautiful, and he was a stud in another country, and I guess what they put these guys through to measure up to be a stud is not good, right? You know, anyway, so I started to get into the sacrum and started to get to some other areas, and finally he turned around and walked away, and he stayed away. He started to graze, and she and I looked at each other and I'm like, we're done. And he wasn't just relaxed in his body from the work I'd done. You could see I went somewhere, he went somewhere, and he had to really think about it. And sometimes they will pin their ears. They go into this inward state. And I mean, I'm like, this is like watching the most phenomenal internal TV show. But you know, there's emotion involved. You know, their ears go floppy and then they're perked and then they're looking at their body and they may be licking and chewing and snorting, but they're fidgeting or we're touching stuff. There's no way that's just muscular.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's just no way. And there's certain things that we can't put our finger on. And that doesn't worry me. You know, it used to. I thought I had to have every answer or people go, why? It's way too miraculous.
Right.
It's way too miraculous. But yes, it's emotional, you know, for them. You know, you don't maybe know why when you've got something released, it makes us cry. I have thought that it's because we are all of a sudden now feeling vulnerable.
Right.
And my sister has a saying, and she studies all the time, just beautiful miracles about the body. And she's a Reiki master and is studying this course of miracles. And they say, the memory we attach to a certain pain, it's the first time we felt it. Like you said, if something at 6 years old happened that wasn't okay, that might have been the first time you really felt fear, let's say, or abandonment. That memory gets attached. Without being able to prove it, I would pretty much believe they're the same. You know, and Stephen Peters says horses never forget, just like they say elephants. So we do the best we can to retrain it and put in positive memories, lengthen that time they can stay in parasympathetic. They also, it's funny, I said this to myself the other day, why, if I had a trigger to something that was years ago that I rarely think of, why would we think they wouldn't?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Why would we ever think that? Because they don't have that, oh, but you shouldn't be worrying about that anymore.
Right.
You know, so I don't know if what I just said makes sense, but there's so much about fascial connections and so much about memory being stored cellularly. And they are one of the greatest things I learned from Stephen Peters and about the horse's brain is about our amygdala and our emotional center, and the size of ours in relation to the size of our brain and the size of the horses in relation to his brain, it's a whole lot bigger. So when people's horses do something and they say, I don't know why he's doing that, well, maybe we need to back up and breathe and ask ourselves why, right? Because there's a reason.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think talking about shifting the way the industry works and having people have these conversations, which is why I really wanted to start doing this, is the idea that you can still get all the goals performance-wise that you want met, but also do it in a way that's sustainable for them mentally and physically and for yourself. But it's hard, and it's interesting, this whole COVID thing too, is that shift kind of happens where everyone is slowed down. All the things that you're witnessing happening where, you know, the agendas aren't as big. There may be other stressors with finances and whatever else, but the actual doing and running and going, and for a lot of people, is now not there. And there's so much more magic when, well, like I have a horse coming in who I'll probably have you come out to see. We're going to do a series on her, and she's got bucking issues. She pulls back. She, you know, she's got a lot of stuff going on. And for the first 2 weeks, probably it's going to be a lot of standing around and just holding space for that. But it's, if people could see the value in that, the value of slowing down, the value of really listening to what people in your life need, the horses need, how much further you actually get faster on the other side.
That's exactly right. That's exactly, I was going to say that earlier, and that's exactly right. I mean, it does make me think in that Chopin when I took my feet out of the stirrups and instead of hurry up and slow down, you know, we used to have that hurry up and slow down, and your seat bones, your horse is like, not today. You know what I mean? Until you soften. If we all slow down in what we're asking and what we would love to get done with our horse, but take our horse that day, that moment where they're at, you'll get there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. But you're doing it on their time. I mean, every time I walk into a session, I have to psychologically throw out the clock. Even if I know I'm keeping an appointment book, I literally throw out the clock. My body has worked on enough horses that I tend to know. I'll know where I'm at. I'll take a peek. Sure enough, 20 more minutes and I'm getting to the hind end. I do a lot more usually on the front than the hind. Just depends. But anyway, the same with people's goals. So that's what I hope. You know, when Western pleasure became so unpopular, people started doing ranch versatility and some other things. And I thought that was a really good thing. They started having jobs to do. Then I just don't know a horse that really wants to go loping around the arena in this, what we thought was perfect flowy form repetitiously. Right. But if they do things that they enjoy, if they're bred to do cutting, and I do believe it, as I say, you can see horses enjoying their work. They're committed. They're in it. But if your horse isn't there that day, adjust your ask. We have to constantly adjust our ask in my body work and what we want of our horses. So that's where the industry, you hope that all the riders that would go in and, oh my God, when there's money involved, or the Olympics, or, you know, you're once you're sponsored by someone, all the pressure that riders feel that do it for a living, it's a rough deal. Whenever man and money are involved, it's a rough deal, because really we have to say, this is the ride I'm going to have today. That's how my horse feels today.
Right.
And accept that. The industry would change somewhat. I mean, people still need to earn their money, there's no doubt, but we need to do it thinking horse first. And I believe you'd still have an industry.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And I think I bring up Warwick because he showed so much and had his name in that field, and Robin, but all the work he's doing is helping people, just as Jim Masterson being in the bodywork, and Garrett Huishman in bodywork and beautiful dressage movement and veterinary work. We have so many great people out there speaking to this and thinking deeply about the horse and his well-being, that I pray that that's what we see far more often. I don't go to shows. I haven't for a long time. Hard for me, because I'm sure there's good things. I will go. I'm dying to watch some of my clients that do 3-day, because I work on their horses, and again, their horses are happy. They feel good in their body. So I'm like, okay, I'll go watch that. But it's never going to be a perfect world, but if I think it becomes more the norm that people think about the health of their horse, the mental health of their horse, and understand what they're doing. Again, Stephen Peters doing brain dissection, talking about how the horse learns. And learning, I didn't know that their second strongest instinct was how they fit in their herd. I only knew that every time I sold a horse, I did get hooked on buying those babies and putting time on them. And then I'd be like, okay, I got to start over, because I loved the process. Owners would call me and say, Sandi, they're so depressed. They're not how they looked when they were in your barn. And I remember I'd call my vet, and he'd say, Sandi, I see it all the time. Their whole world has been changed. You give your horse such routine. They thrive on routine that they feel safe in. And now they don't know where they stand, even though those were great owners. And I was blessed. All the people that bought horses that I sold kept them for years and years, and they were good fits. But they'd go through almost a year of this horse not being quite themselves. We need to acknowledge that.
Right.
We need to acknowledge that. And I haven't figured out yet how horses that show and are in those temporary, do they just not need their buddy at home? Do you know what I mean? I haven't figured it out, because there are those that look good in their body. There's some that are not. But there's those that seem to, I have friends that load up and they pull up the trailer and the horse is trying to get out of the paddock to load up. That's a pretty great sign, right? They like to go.
Yeah.
But so I wonder how they adjust. That's something I kind of want to dig into too. How, I guess they just feel safe. I guess their rides are good by their owner. I'm answering my own question. And the show facility, they feel good in it. They can like the whole program. Versus the ones that have been showing for years, or a lot of the off the track thoroughbreds for me, they're so shut down. They may have been running.
Yeah.
I do think the running helped them. I think the running helped them release the tension from being in the cross ties and everything done to them. It at least helped release a lot of those good endorphins and oxytocin and all that. But some of them might be doing their job, but you can see in their eye there's nobody home.
Right.
Those are the ones that hair by hair can we release the tension on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for the horses that, because I have a lot of 3-day clients, large dressage clients that do go show, and it's how do you have them be in an ever-changing environment and still be okay with it? And I was just talking about somebody the other day. We were working on trailer loading, which is stressful for the horse. And she said, well, do all horses, when they haul a lot, do they need ulcer guard? And I said, no, because if they're not worried about the trailer, that there's no stress, then there's no need for that. You're not getting the rush of all of the things that would create ulcers. And then it kind of came to, well, it has to be about showing them in multiple different ways that you can feel unsafe and unsure, but you have the emotional capacity to regulate that in any situation, right? So it's it's about showing them that they can manage it, that they are safe regardless of if they're in a little bit of an uncertain circumstance. You know, they don't immediately feel like, oh, now I have to have a meltdown.
Right.
I think that's what I'm attempting to do when I take them into that space in the round pen, you know, over and over, and bringing in new things. Because before, it used to be about desensitizing, was basically just like actively shutting them down so they just don't see anything anymore, because I don't have to do that anymore, right? Like, I can do the work just in the round pen, and then the owner can say, oh, he's terrified of flags though, so we should fix that. And then after doing the regular stuff, you bring in the flag, and the issue is gone.
Right.
You didn't really have to work the issue. The issue was they didn't know how to regulate their emotions, and they didn't know that they could feel safe. Just by showing them, you know, and a lot of standing around, you taking them stress, standing there until they could rewrite that story about, oh, every time I feel uncertain, it doesn't mean I'm going to die, which is literally what I think that they're feeling. And then once you get to that point, going to different places, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm a little uncertain, but that's okay. Cause you know, I think it's the same for us too, right?
Right.
Just knowing I've got my own stuff. I know how to make myself safe. I know how to hold my boundaries strong. I know how to feel good in all of these, you know, all of this uncertain time. So I don't have to go into full panic.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Right. The worst fear of being eaten didn't happen. So you build on that. I was worried about that, but I'm not. Where am I right now? Getting back into the moment. Where am I right now? If we're safe where we are right now, we're good. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I answered my own question thinking about it too. The horses that show a lot, if that owner is mindful, are they always watching, how does my horse feel? Did I warm him up properly? You know, did the trailer ride go well? How are you hauling? You know, and are you always allowing enough time? You know, drive safely, blah, blah, blah. If they build on all of these practices, that it's a good experience for the horse. They're in the trailer. They like their buddy. They've got their food, whatever. First of all, they always blow my mind that they load. It just blows my mind. I've never taken for granted that are these beautiful creatures that need to be out and about, load up into a metal box on wheels and go, but they do. Yeah. So I think in doing things layer by layer, that you're creating nothing but really good situations for them, obviously, in the ideal world. And when things don't go right, that you're there to help peel that away and not have it become a huge deal. Yeah, they learn too. They'd rather feel safe in their body, right? We all feel better when we are relaxed and like where we are. And I think they seek that. You know, they seek being safe in their herd. And if we become that herd when we're taking them, showing and all, it can be a good thing for them. And I think that's what I saw in that video I watched with the horse, that she, you know, had him do something he knew, and then he became bolder for something he didn't. And that's what they talk about, is we become safer in our body. And what I understand from the horse's brain, the more we open that up for him, the more we learn and expand, the more confident we are in our world. Well, I've done that, so I can do that. Well, again, not putting human thought into how the horse does that, but it does the same for them as they build confidence to cross the creek and get to the other side. Now they're not worried about getting away from the predator if there's a creek there. You know what I mean? And again, I know I'm putting human connection, but to that, or human stories, but everybody has to expand their environment. The weanling first runs around its mom. Then he runs around a little farther. Then he comes in and checks in. Am I okay? Then he goes a little farther. Right. And all of that is building his confidence. So we as horse owners need to sort of present the world, I feel like, or when you have someone bringing a horse that's bucking and running, why? You're going to have to peel away at that slowly. But that horse is going to have to first and foremost feel safe doing whatever it is doing. You know what I mean? And it can't stay locked in a stall. So you bring it into a pen and you see how it responds to you. And very short sessions, right? Of just starting to peel away at some of these things that ignite that bucking. And what you said, often a lot of those behaviors go away without ever having tapped into, was it the saddle? Was it the girth? Was it the this? No, he was just already in flight from some other experience. So, but it's a fascinating thing, and it's a gift to be able to work with them and try to constantly back up and try to see it from their view.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we figure it out, sometimes we don't, but the goal is that it still all gets better. Whether I know why or don't know why, right?
Yes, definitely.
Wow.
Well, we can start to wrap up. Is there anything that you thought of that you wanted to say before? I always like to check in because I hate for people to be like, oh, I really wanted to get this one thing that I thought about. Or do
No,
you feel
I really don't. This was just so much fun. It's just so much fun to get to know you this way because of hearing such good things. And even though my specialty is, it's funny, my specialty is getting my hands on horses and releasing tension. And the Masterson method is called integrative approach to equine body work, and releasing tension and soreness increases range of motion. And when Jim got going, it's performance body work, right? And it does increase a horse's range of motion, and therefore he is healthier in his body. It's prevents injury. Talking about ulcers, gastrointestinal support. Every time a horse relaxes, you get that bend in the horses you're working on, and they salivate. You're helping that gut relax. So it's movement, but I didn't know that I was going to end up digging in so deep into the psychology of this, right? And again, not questioning why when I feel tension release in a horse, I'm helping increase his range of motion, but digging into their brain and digging into the reality of the fascia and the connectivity that we can't see. Boy, this is an avenue I'm going to be in for a long time. And just like Ivana says, muscles are important, but boy, my world is really so much more about this fascia and helping a horse release tension so that he is emotionally, mentally, and physically secure in his world is huge. Yeah. So, I mean, all I want to say is you have a different specialty, but they so speak to each other.
Right.
And it's just exciting.
Yeah.
Fun, to know there's a lot of us out there trying to do what's really best for the horse, and so many beautiful clients that know this isn't working, what they're doing isn't working, and being able to peel that back to seeing what we can do. And what you do for clients, for human beings, is wonderful because I've seen it. And, our little common friend we have, to see her confidence and see her relationship with her horse change was really a beautiful real-time experience.
Yeah, I think the shift for me has been in this year so far. I really, all of a sudden, a lot of things clicked for me. And so I always talk about her because hers was such a significant shift. Because once I was like, oh, wait a minute, my clients are so great. Because I never, ever say, hey, I know all the things. It's like, okay, the ones that are here, I'm going to experiment on you guys today. And you're going to give me feedback. So they are so open to that, which makes it much easier, obviously. But yeah, I think having both sides and then watching both of them shift is like, I thought I liked horse training, but now I'm like, this is like extra fun.
Oh, it's so rewarding. And, one of the biggest compliments I think I received once from someone, and it was when you have little sayings in your head that are memorable. This darling gal was taking our courses. She's since certified. She's opened a rescue in Colorado. She's just phenomenal. But she came up to me and she said, I want what you have. And I stood in my tracks like, wow. I told you I set those goals. I would love to be viewed as, someone, gee, have you thought of calling Sandi Vreeburg, whatever. I was so touched. And so I thought, what do I have? And I'd come home being, what do I have? But what I have is the desire, the passion to show everyone else they have it too.
That's it.
They have it too. And she has it too. And she and I just had an exchange the other day, and I told her it changed my life having someone say that to me. But, clients will say, or students will say, God, you know so much. And do I need to do the dissection courses? Do I need to do the biomechanics? I'm like, you know what? First of all, I learn in layers. Every course I take, I go in so relaxed because I don't need a grade. I know that I'm going to come home with more than I had when I walked in. And I know that I can only retain so much. So I say that to them. I've added this out of sincere passion. I love learning this. But first and foremost, what you're learning here is learning how to watch the horse. You're learning touch and observing the horse. And that's why so many people cry, is because they realize there's so much they haven't seen. Mm-hmm. They haven't been seeing. Well, when we stand back and watch the horse and take that in, you're also loving yourself. standing back and asking, like you'll say, so what is your goal? Or why do we want to win? Do we want to win because we want to show so-and-so we're good? Well, maybe we need to let go of that. Do you know what I mean? And pare it down to the most sincere, because I'd love to do well. I'd love to connect with horses or whatever that is. Love yourself for that passion and that desire. But then you got to peel it back to, so where are we now? And what is that horse saying?
Right.
And whether it's for performance, and I'm working on horses so that they move better for their horse. Yeah. I mean, for their client and they do better in the show, or it's for someone who really just honestly wants that horse to feel the best they can in their backyard. They're all beautiful, wonderful, valid approaches to making the world better for horses, and absolutely making the world better for the human beings involved. Incredible.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is allowing people to realize that it's not anything other than you can do it too. Like, here, all you have to do is listen, pay attention, be present. That's it. That's really it.
Yep, you have the tools, and love yourself for that. And if there is a fear for whatever reason, love yourself for that too. But let's peel it back, because we can probably dispel it. Because whatever that was isn't happening anymore.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So where can people find you? Do you have a website?
I have a website, which is 4 Movement, the number 4. My fabulous son helped me come up with that years ago. 4 Movement. I have email, Sandi@4movement.net. And if they pull up Sandi Vreeburg on the internet or whatever, I do pop up, being a certified practitioner and because I teach our courses and all. So, my name, as you struggled with Vreeburg, as a kid, I used to have to say, my mom taught me this, V as in victory, R-double-E, B as in boy, U-R-G. And that's why I have to spell out my name wherever I was. But anyway, so yes, I do. If they look up 4 Movement, the number 4 in Movement, they'll find me. And so I have one last question for you, and that is your emphasis, because I believe it's a walk and talking world. That's something I stole from my ex-husband, who was in commercial real estate. I believe in connectivity. I think we all have our specialty. And doing that business call that I just did for Masterson, I said, my goal in life is to be the best body worker that I can be, meaning seeing that horse, feeling that horse, and bringing improvement mentally and physically to that horse. But I'm not a trainer. I refer to Jack's books. I take her books and keep them in my truck and sell them to my clients, because my clients say, what can I do differently? And I'm not a trainer. That's not my specialty. I'm not a vet. That's not my specialty. I don't diagnose. I say, this is what the horse is telling me. Ask your vet what they think. And I love growing my world that way, and having saddle fitters that I believe in, and having you in my world and getting to know you better. Because I don't know if your specialty is, or your passion is most about helping people through emotional challenges with their horse, or with your horses as well, or if it's, is it a relationship thing between that person and their horse, or also are you training horses for competition?
I think it kind of all boils down to the relationship between the horse. So when I got certified with Igala, I worked with a psychologist, and we did a lot of foster kids. We did a lot of different things with it. And I repeated constantly, I was like, I want to do this, but I want to do it with people on their own horses. I just don't know what that looks like.
Right.
So it's kind of like I've been able to, I don't work under that model because it's just myself. But it's a mixture. I think I have the last few weeks done mirror sessions where I'll bring my 3 in, because they're phenomenal at reading people, and they're safe to be around in that way. But we've had mirror sessions where we'll do a meditation on the outside of the arena, set our intention. People go in 6 feet apart with their chairs, journaling, and they'll do some observation. And then we all kind of connect at the end and talk about and process what happened. So there's a dash of that I started doing, and that can be horse people or non-horse people. And I think it's even just about setting an hour a week aside for yourself. If you're not going to do it at all, an hour a week is better than nothing. And for the people I love the people that are competitive. I love seeing them unwind or at least enjoy themselves in the show. I've had a couple clients that have come, I don't ever want to show again. I don't want to jump again. I don't even care. I just want to enjoy my horse. And then through that process have gone, well, I could maybe go to a show. And for her, it was 100 jumpers is what she used to do. But she's like, well, I want to do something that's not my thing. So we went to a dressage show, and it was so fun. She did so good because it was just like, she didn't care. Yep. They looked amazing. She was in her 100, she was in a brown bridle, and, you know, it was a schooling show. But she went in there and just cleaned up, and the people I was with, we were laughing, and I, you know, not to step on any, dressage shows are a little bit like rigid, you know, and so for a group of people to come in smiling and laughing and like gonna go, you know, it was a shift for people to see.
Yeah.
I like that part. I like the idea of people being able to still do what they want to do in performance wise, but enjoy themselves. And then in that piece, the horse relaxes and then they do better. And then I like the problem horse stuff. So I think it's still all the same. I don't take horses in training now. I am taking one, but it's for the intention of documenting. This is the process I do with all of the pieces, which is why I think it'd be interesting to have you come out and work on the horse. And then what we can throw that in there too, because I think it is about their mind, their body, their, you know, all of it. Like it's
absolutely.
I think when it comes down to it, it's relationship with self first, and then it can spill over into the relationship with your family, with your horses, with your, definitely the horses are the main piece of it still, but I think more for me, it's about helping the people heal in that piece.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I remembered what I did want to say that I just really loved that you said in your interview that I watched was, are you having fun? I mean, when people will come and they have this horse and you see their set jaw and they're so intent and it's not fun anymore, and you see this relationship, that was so beautiful to peel it back. I doubt you got into this to not have fun, right? And that's what we have to peel it back to is, when did you enjoy it? When was it fun? Now, or maybe it wasn't because they from the start wanted so much from that horse, right? To heal them through something. But that was so beautiful because people should be enjoying it. And it shows. I mean, when they're laughing, showing their horse, it should be fun. Sure, we should have a couple little nerves, because nerves can be good. You know, they make you go forth. They make you go farther. And you come out pleased with what you've done.
Right.
But it should be fun, because if you're not having fun, if horses have fun, you know, they're not having fun, right? When you're not. So I think that's such a beautiful thing to bring back to people is enjoyment, you know, when we're loving what we're doing and with their horse, which is, they're such phenomenal beings. There is never a day that goes by that I'm not thankful that horses are in my life. I just cannot take it for granted. I say to my kids, I'm like, I am closest to being the kid that I was years ago in my life right now. I'm doing exactly what I did as a kid, which is be outdoors all day long, get my hands on horses. And the beauty is sharing it with others and seeing owners be happy and confidence, and students in my classes gain confidence and realize they can do this too. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yes, so good.
Thank you for taking the time to chat with me. I love getting to know you, and I love knowing you're out there. There's just a whole world that I can see combining with the two of us, with the work that I do and people that come. Some people want to go on to be certified practitioners. Some just want to work on their own horses, and that's all wonderful. But others have something they're seeking that I think now I have a pathway. I have a have you heard of, when I can send them your name. So that's really fun for me. No, truly, that's lovely. You just kind of enlarged my world that way. Truly.
Yeah, it was so fun talking to you, and I'm 100%. It's not the last time we're going to chat. No. So yes, thank you for taking the time. Just, I know that, like I said in the beginning, we've crossed paths here and there over the years. And now that I'm over in this side, I was like, I'm pretty sure she's local to me. And then having the client we share go, you know who you need to have a conversation with? And I was like, you know that I just 10 minutes ago was already having that conversation. So it was clearly meant to be.
See, those are the things you and I spoke with in the beginning. And that is when people say wooby wooby on universe, Come on. I mean, when things like that happen, how does someone text you and you're like, you've got to be kidding me, when you were just thinking of someone that, you know, maybe you haven't for a while? Or my daughter and I have a saying, and that's like, why would I ever question the universe? Because
Right.
it's whatever. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't real.
Yeah.
So anyway, really, really fun. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a great day with your kids, and it's gorgeous. Your weather's good. Mine's good. I'm just 10 minutes from you, or 15, but at the beach, you know, I have to always keep layers in my truck, you know,
Oh, yeah.
because you never know. So yeah, but anyway, thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much too.
Take care.
Bye.